I grew up in a poor village. Back in the days, most of the roads were in such bad condition that it took us a pretty long time to get to school. For the sake of our education, we attended boarding school as it would be more convenient for us. First day going to school, each of us was handed a set of pillows and blankets to take to our dormitory. As soon as we went to our dorm, we all together cleaned up the room, wiped the dust off the wall and rearranged our stuff. Jack, one of my 3 roommates, discovered a large window in the room. He joyfully opened it to have some morning sunlight in the room and told all of us to come check it out. The window overlooked the school backyard and a dense forest with very tall pines. That night, after we finished our outdoor class meeting time, we quickly got back to our room. Me and another 2 friends of mine decided to play poker for the night, while Leo was sitting at the table studying. He was the most diligent student in our group. It looked like Jack was bitter over losing the game to me, so he asked nerdy Leo to join us. But Leo refused it right away, saying he was busy doing some school assignments in the hope of getting a scholarship. We kept playing the game yet talked quietly as we didn't want to bother him. We kept playing poker until midnight and then went to our beds. Leo was still sitting at the desk behind the window doing his assignments. As he wanted to take a look outside for getting more ideas, he gently pulled the curtains aside. It was unknown to us what he had witnessed, yet he let out a loud scream which awoke us immediately. The 3 of us got off our beds. We rubbed our eyes, then walked to Leo to check on him. We were wide awake as we saw the things appear in front of our eyes. They were truly beyond imagination. There were blue balls of flame outside the forest. They were igniting and floating in mid-air, looking creepy. While gazing at the blue flames outside the window, Ken asked in amazement, "Guys, what the hell are those things?" Jack replied, "Aren't they spook lights?" The atmosphere inside the room got tense. It became even heavier when nerdy Leo said it was just some kind of natural phenomena, and we strongly disagreed with him. Ken told us to stop quarreling and suggested us going back to bed as it was already late. The 4 of us went to our beds and slept until late in the next morning. During the lunch break, we gathered around and discussed about the blue flames we had seen last night, then came up with a plan to discover the forest behind our school. I also took this opportunity to tell them about the rumors about those blue flames. People said there were ghosts in the forest. Out of curiosity, the whole group set out to the forest, as we decided to climb over the fence, then make our way to the destination. We successfully made it outside without being recognized, as the teachers and everyone must have been taking their naps. We curiously went deep into the forest as we walked past the tall pines. From inside the forest was way more beautiful than we'd expected. Briefly looking around, we saw nothing abnormal about the place. Suddenly, nerdy Leo loudly howled, "Hey guys, come take a look!" He pointed out the white bones scattered and plunged into the ground. None of us had any idea how long these bones had been here. Even more terrifying, near the spot where Leo was standing, we quickly found other bones behind the trees. As we were standing in bewilderment, Leo turned away, searching for a spot to urinate. But Ken stopped him from being away from the group as he feared his friend would get lost or encounter something bad on the way. So we decided to follow Leo in case any unexpected incident happened. As Leo was taking a few steps, he tripped and fell into a large hole. Leo screamed in horror. His lower body was stuck inside the hole. He couldn't move at all, as if there was someone underneath him trying to pull him down. We struggled to pull Leo out of the hole as he was scared and in pain. As we finally removed Leo completely from the deep hole, his face was pale. He even had tears on his eyes due to being scared. Leo pointed at his leg, speaking incoherently. Turned out that one of his legs was stuck inside a human skull. How terrifying that there were many dead people buried in this forest. The appearance of the skull also made the atmosphere more intense than ever. Ken almost peed his pants. He said, "What the hell is going on?" Leo panicked as he realized how serious the situation had become. I suggested the group to bring the skull back to the hall and then get back to our room. All of us were scared after the trip. We climbed over the fence and headed to our dorm, then laid on our beds and covered ourselves with blankets. None of us talked to each other as we were still haunted with the things we'd seen at the forest. As we expected, nothing bad would happen to us. Another spooky thing took place. This time, it was way more scary than the things we saw the other night. As we were peacefully sleeping, Ken suddenly got up. He woke up Jack by shaking his shoulder. Jack confusedly looked around and not knowing what was going on. Meanwhile, I was scared to the point when my face had turned purple. I spoke to my friends in a trembling voice and I also heard strange noises. It seemed like we all realized that something creepy was taking place outside the window. Jack plucked up his courage. He got off his bed and walked to the window to check. He pulled the curtains aside and looked out of the window. Jack, suddenly startled, eyes glued to the window as he called us over to see what was going on outside. We didn't see the blue flames like we did the other night. Instead, there were white shadows hovering. They even emitted light which looked so scary to us. We immediately returned to our beds and pretended that we hadn't seen anything. I curled up with my blanket, shaking badly due to great fear. The next days, rumors about the blue balls of flame started spreading. The security guard had brought a dog and chained it at the school backyard to stop us from skipping classes by climbing over the fence. The first night, nothing spooky happened. However, the following nights we were constantly awakened by the dog's bark every time it struck midnight. Ken sat up. He called Jack, who was lying next to him, to go take a look at the window and see if there was anyone entering the school that made the dog bark so loudly. The two pulled the curtains aside and were scared by the scene before their eyes. The blue balls of flames appeared again. They floated around, and that was why the dog had barked so loudly. Its eyes were vicious. The dog growled aggressively while drool was oozing out of his mouth. It looked like the spook lights could feel the dog's aggression towards them. As the dog approached, they slowly moved backwards and disappeared into the forest. We couldn't get back to sleep as the dog was still barking loudly. We were all sleepless that night, while the lights in the teacher's room were on for the whole night. As the sun was about to rise, I heard noises of someone going in and out of the room, but I kept my eyes closed as I was scared of ghosts. The next morning, everybody was freaked out to find out that Nerdy Leo had disappeared. The uniforms he'd prepared for school last night were still placed neatly on the bed. As we left our room, we saw a crowd gathering at the restroom. Standing from afar watching, I suddenly had a bad premonition within me. The three of us looked at each other, wondering if Leo was in trouble. We tried to make our way through the crowd. As we finally got inside the restroom, Ken yelled out that it was Leo. Leo was sleeping in the toilet. He still had his pajamas on. His whole body was cold as he leaned against the wall, unconsciously. But the strangest thing was, Leo's face had become noticeably ill-favored. It was gaunt and there were deep hollows underneath his cheekbones. We carried Leo to the infirmary. All of us believed Leo being in this situation had a lot to do with the balls of flames we saw at the forest last night. Soon as we entered the infirmary, Leo was given a saline drip by the nurse. It was lucky that he just fainted. I heard the boy said that a few minutes later Leo suddenly sat up in a state of panic. We asked him about what happened and were told a story that was beyond our imagination. Last night, as Leo was on his way to the restroom, he had encountered a ghost coming towards him from the end of the corridor. As Leo was being sleepy, he accidentally bumped into the ghost, which fully awoke him. Leo opened his eyes and looked up. He was terrified by the scene before his eyes. It was a horrifying scene that could stay in one's mind forever if they saw it. The face of the man standing in front of him was completely disfigured. His facial skin was cracked. His mouth was wide open without any tooth inside. Panicked, Leo fell backwards and accidentally bumped his head on the wall, then fainted. After the incident, Leo asked for a few days off from school so he could have time to recover. That night, as everyone was sleeping, Jack was again awoken by the dog's loud barks. This time the dog became even more aggressive as he barked louder and louder, which caused Jack to be scared. All three of us went to the window, pulled the curtains aside and turned our gaze at the forest and the school backyard. We were soon freaked out by the reappearance of the blue balls of flames. This time there were more of them coming to our direction. The balls formed a circle surrounding the pitiful dog. A while later it looked like those balls of flames had absorbed the dog's soul as he slowly contracted and fainted. We were heartbroken to witness the scene. Perhaps Leo had dealt with the same situation that day. We were sleepless that night. As the sun came up, the school security guard were freaked out to find the dog died, freezing on the yard, without any apparent reason. We and the other students curiously went to check on the dog. Every one of us was scared and upset by the scene in front of us. The dog had died freezing, all of his limbs held up high. We didn't expect those spooky lights to be so brutal and horrifying. We later found out that the school and its dormitory area were built on a mass grave back in the wartime. No longer after the incident, our school was sealed up and later ended up being dissolved. We moved into another boarding school which was far away from our old one. Our old school had been abandoned ever since, and yet there were still rumors about the ghosts and, of course, the spooky lights.